What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house, this is not so going. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post-Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.
A very good day to you and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. This is Kisia, unscripted. I've looked for him over the week, but yesterday I had to call him, ask him where he is. He told me to come to his place so that we can have a conversation about what is happening in the country. It is so sad what we saw at Mukuru kwa Jenga. Why were the bodies there? Why were people killed? Talk about protest. Did people have to die for us to get where we are? You look at the Gen Z-led protest again. Finance bill withdrawn. Cabinet dissolved. There's extrajudicial killings in this country. Is it? That's why I looked for Kisia. Kisia, this is unprecedented, but I had to come to your place because we had to have this conversation. How have you been? You took a sabbatical, but I've brought you back before. We had agreed we'd meet next week, but we have to talk.
Well, Jed, first of all, thank you for paying me a visit. It's my pleasure to have you here today. And of course, we going through unprecedented times, horrible times. This actually reminds me of the Moi era, where people were just kidnapped, people disappeared, never to be found again. People were actually murdered. So it is taking us back almost 3 decades ago. It is a very, very terrible time to be in this country.
Of course,
and especially when we have lost lives of young children as young as 12 years. 12 years is my youngest child. So you can imagine how I feel as a parent.
No, I've been so restless because it could have been me. It could have been maybe your son.
Correct.
It could be anyone.
Correct.
And then the conversation in the country has been all about, is the president seeing? Let's just watch this video from him having an interview with Linus and Latif together with the guy from NTV about empathy.
There will be an investigation on how these 19 Kenyans died. There will be a clarity, an explanation for each and every one of them. I have told you one situation where somebody accosted the police, took over the firearm, started to shoot at people, endangering the lives of many other Kenyans. He was shot by the police. There is a situation in Parliament. How did the invaders in Parliament? They invaded Parliament and went straight for the armory at the Mausoleum. They went straight at the armory at the Sergeant at Arms office. Those are the investigations that we will get into, and a proper explanation will be given to the country.
Kisia, do you think that the president has the pulse of the country now? Because it seems he's making drastic measures. He's making measures. Is it too late? Does he have the pulse of the country?
First of all, you know, if you cared to analyze the that interview where these 3 journalists interviewed the president, some people are saying that he's a strong man, but I would say he's an evil man. Because at the time he was holding that interview, we had lost children. Our children, his children, were dead in the morgue. Not as a result of anything, but as a result of brutal force applied on our children by a rogue regime headed by President William Ruto. You know, when you lose a life through any other means, maybe through sickness, you can understand. But when life is brought to an end through a heinous act, like we saw about 2-3 weeks ago, that is something that is completely unforgiven. And I would say, if I were the one in his place, I think most likely I would have disappeared. I would have disappeared.
You know, there's this...
Because the pressure alone, the thought of ending innocent lives of children would have killed me. So the fact that we have a president who is able to move around, who is able to hold press conferences without showing any empathy is mind-boggling.
You know,
I'm actually shocked.
It's crazy that in every conversation that the president has, he says the era of extrajudicial killing is ended, you know. And then we saw this young boy on somewhere, I think it was a river or something, was dropped there, dead. We have seen the 12 bullets on a young person. We have seen what we saw yesterday in Jenga. We saw that interview at NTV about a young guy saying he has injuries on his arm, his ankle, his knees. Are we in that era of extrajudicial killings, despite what the president is telling us?
You know, there's a complete mismatch between what the president has been saying and what is actually happening on the ground. It is evident, all the evidence, all the facts are there, that we've lost not just people, we've lost children through extrajudicial killings. Actually, this is just murder. Our children have been murdered by this regime. There is no other better name that you can give it. In fact, I would have said it's genocide, but we are not yet there.
Oh no.
This is murder. Our children have been murdered. You saw a child of 12 years old, you know, actually being fired, not by one bullet, not by two, not 4, 5, 6, 8 bullets being pumped into a young child of 12 years. What were you killing? Were you killing an elephant? Even an elephant would have probably died by the time he received the 3rd bullet. What were they killing? What were these people killing? Were they actually killing human beings? What are they killing? Were they killing animals? What were they killing?
The president yesterday reporting to the country that the Inspector General of Police has resigned. Question in most people's heads is, what about those cops? What about the atrocities? What would you say about that? Is resigning, as I asked yesterday, again, enough?
You see, the president is in charge of the country. The president is in charge of this government. The police is part of his government. The mere fact that we've lost over 41 children, our children, is something that should bother him. The police, the IG, Mr. Kome, should have been fired long ago. In fact, in a civilized democracy, Kome we should have opened an inquiry by now, you know. But now we are just still pussyfooting. There's nothing happening. We are being told stories. This is not a time to be told stories. This is a time for the president to answer hard questions. Mr. Kome has resigned. It is a little bit too late, but thank God he has resigned. But it should not end with resignation. In fact, as a matter of fact, the entire government, the Kenya Kwanza government, should have tendered its resignation. Because there is nowhere in a civilized and modern world where you can kill innocent children, 41 of them, and maybe more. We're going to count more. We saw yesterday 9 bodies being retrieved from Mukuru Kwanjenga. 9 bodies cut into pieces like animals. In fact, I think even if you're cutting an animal, you'll be a bit more civil. How would you cut a human being and put a human being in a sack and dump that human being in a dump site? What was your intention? What was going through your mind when you're carrying out such a heinous act? These are not human beings.
But for Mukuru,
these are not human beings.
For Mukuru Jenga, we can say we do not know conclusively that it is the police officers.
You see, we're not saying the police officers, but this has happened, and President William Ruto is in charge of the country. He's in charge. You see, Jed, by the time such a thing is happening, we have a national intelligence service all over. They actually even able to using espionage. They're able to know what is likely to happen. They even probably know that you are here. My question is, can we lose several people in that manner without the National Intelligence Services knowing? And those bodies are dumped next to a police station. Are we saying that our intelligence system is so weak that we have gotten to this point?
Would you agree?
My point is,
Yeah.
President Ruto must take political responsibility. There are people who are dead. There are children who are dead in a manner that I cannot even describe. He must take political responsibility. They forget about even the ones who, that have been dumped at Mukuru Kwanjenga. There are those who have been shot by the police. We saw it happening. We are not blind. We saw it happening.
I was in town. You called me.
We saw it happening.
When I was in town.
We were glued on the TV. We saw these things happening. We have lost our children. This is not a matter to debate. He needs to categorically tell us exactly what he intends to do. It does not end with the IG resigning. In a civilized society, Jed, and I repeat, in a civilized society, the government should have tendered its resignation. You see, the question you should be asking me is that, do we have dead children? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
How many are they? More than 41. Dead. And most of them have bullets. Are you telling us that they were shot by civilians? The government needs to, this is not a matter of debate. I still hold the view that President William Ruto, by now, including his entire government, should have resigned from power.
You know, it's crazy that you've talked about the National Intelligence Service, and then we look at the police service, and then the question would be, what is wrong with our enforcement agencies? Because you'd expect, Gachagua said that government should have had prior knowledge of the situation on the ground, blaming it on Nurdin Haji. You look at police officers firing live bullets at protesters. Are they capable of handling the gravity of the situation that we are facing right now?
You know, this matter is a matter that is very grave, Jed. This is the saddest moment in our country. This is the lowest that we've ever gone. Our children went to the streets with handkerchiefs. They went with peace. They were so peaceful. They were met with tear gas. Our children went to the streets with water. They were met with bullets. Our children went to the streets with carrying our national flag. National flag, which means they were coming peacefully, but their blood was shed. So I don't know, Jed, what else you would expect. Parents who are going through grieving right now, Kenyans who have seen terrible scenes, our children who have seen, because our children are on social media. They have seen children, their ages dying through extrajudicial means. That is something that will remain for them forever. It goes beyond just, we've lost children. Those are gone now to be with the Creator. Not because that they died through natural causes. They died through a brutal force. Okay? So now you tell me, Jed.
Because I'm asking, are they capable?
Tell me, Jed. Tell me. Are you saying that with all the resources that we've given to the National Intelligence Services, we have given to the police, we have given to all these institutions that we have, we've given them, you are unable to see this thing coming up? This is something that must have been picked. And I'm so convinced that President William Ruto receives intelligence briefs on a daily basis. So he reads them. And I'm sure he calls the security agencies to ask questions, to ask for clarification. I am also so sure that the security agencies also make recommendations as to how you can avert such crisis. So the question is, how come action was not taken in good time? And I therefore agree with His Excellency, the Deputy President Gachagua, that people slept on their jobs. Or if they didn't sleep on their jobs, President William Ruto was actually given the brief, but he failed to act on it.
Before we even go to cabinet, we are looking at the situation on the ground, and I don't know if you agree that there must be opportunists within the Gen Z protests. President William Ruto, first press conference after Parliament was invaded, is that there were criminals in the CBD. He has maintained that. From where you sit, do you think, firstly, there are opportunists making the criminality in the protests? And how would you respond to what the president is terming as the situation is all about criminals?
You see, let's separate two issues. If they are criminals, it is a responsibility of government to deal with criminals. If the government is unable to separate criminals from law-abiding citizens, then they should tell us. It is their responsibility. They know who the criminals are. So deal with the criminals in accordance with the law. But we are talking about our children who went peacefully to demonstrate. He came out, in his first press conference, he was even talking about treason.
Yeah.
What treason are you talking about? These are our children. Our children. They belong to this country. We are the parents. They went to demonstrate peacefully, using peaceful means. They went to occupy Parliament, and Parliament belongs to the people of Kenya. Are you forgetting that Article 1 is so clear? It is so explicit that the power belongs to the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. It does not belong to William Ruto. It does not belong to Parliament. They are only there exercising that power on our behalf. So when our children decided to go to Parliament, to visit Parliament, they have every right. They only needed to give a notice, which they did, that we shall be going to Parliament. Parliament is part of Kenya. Parliament is not out of the jurisdiction of this country. It is part of Kenya. Kenyans have a right to go to Parliament and ask questions. Kenyans have even a right to visit State House. These institutions belong to the people of Kenya. You are only a temporary occupier of that space. And Kenyans can recall you anytime. They can tell you, get out. You are asking Kenyans to give you notice when they are coming to occupy their space. It's their space. The only thing that I would agree with anybody is that they must be peaceful. But if they are going there to Parliament and they are peaceful, they are going to State House and they are peaceful, what business do you have in killing innocent human beings? Engage them in any event. These are not mad people that they are going to Parliament because they want to go to Parliament. They are going to Parliament because Parliament has failed them. They are there to represent. They are there to legislate. They are there to oversight. They are there to budget. They have failed in total. Then you have an executive that has completely collapsed, that is not functioning, that has failed, that is incompetent, that is corrupt, and now it is treacherous and murderous.
Oh.
That is the executive you have.
Treacherous
So,
and
yes, and
murderous.
murderous. That is the executive you have. So now, my Jed, are you telling me that our children made a mistake? If indeed, and they have intelligence, and our intelligence has never failed Kenyans. They have never failed us. Why did they act in advance to separate the criminals from? And I can also suspect if there was any criminality, it must have been engineered. Because our children are peaceful.
Yeah.
If you look at everything they've been doing, it's peaceful. In fact, they are the ones who have been provoked by the police. The Kenya Police Service is no longer a service. We've gone back to what we used to call the Kenya Police Force.
Oh.
Yes. How can you, in this day and age, with a new constitution, okay, it's no longer new, but the constitution of 2010, that provides for picketing, that provides for demonstration, your job is actually to provide security. Instead of providing security, you turn the guns that are paid for by taxpayers' money on the same people who are paying taxes.
Treacherous, and you say murderous. I want us to...
It is. You know, before we just knew them to be, corrupt and incompetent. But now when you murder our children, what is that? You know, even the Bible, and my president reads the Bible better than I do. You drop blood, be ready for yours to drop.
Live by the sword, die by the sword. We'll circle back. Tell me about the future. But first, let's listen to John Mbadi. While cabinet ministers were being vetted, he said, let them pass this process, because it's high time we let the president do what he damn well pleases.
We have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in.
Kisia, you listen to Mbadi. Cabinet has been dissolved. We are left with Musalia Mudavadi, a man from your area. Did we have to get here, first of all? Because, you know, most people watch this channel. I meet a lot of people in the streets and they tell me, your guests have been telling you that this is bound to happen. And now it is happening. You saw the president dissolving parliaments, people saying, dissolving cabinet, people say, you know, he has given in. General thoughts, first of all, about cabinet being dissolved.
Well, you see, the cabinet was not our cabinet. It was a cabinet of President William Ruto. And if you've listened to Mbadi, Honorable Mbadi, very clearly, Mbadi says these people are incompetent. Actually, 70% are incompetent, are inexperienced, they have bad records, they are corrupt. Some of them have been, actually arraigned in court for murder. So these are not people who are suitable to hold public office. Okay? The warning shots were there, at least from the opposition side. And because the government side, carried the day, the entire list was passed. Yet the issues to do with credibility were on the table. So that is a cabinet that President William Ruto preferred working with, knowing very well. And again, I can tell you, before any senior person is appointed in the Republic of Kenya or anywhere in the world, the intelligence services produce a report on that person and say, this is the person that you are appointing. So even by the time you are transmitting the name to Parliament, you have a full and complete report about that particular person. Okay?
Yeah.
So Parliament is supposed to vet. Okay? If their vetting processes were actually neat and transparent, we would be getting people who are capable. But because the Parliament we have is used as a laundromat, just a laundry machine to clean up people. You saw even some ministers being accused of corruption. They go there and, the Parliament cleans them. Say, these guys are not corrupt, they're okay. So let us start by saying that is his cabinet. He chose it. He was advised not to, appoint some of those people, but he insisted. He knows very well. In fact, the person who should be answering a question as to why he preferred the people he appointed is President William Ruto. He knows why he appointed those people. But your guess is as good as mine, Jed. President William Ruto, from his character, and from the beginning, he wanted weak characters. People he can keep on reminding them about their past. You know, you're a murderer, I cleared you. You know, you're a corrupt fellow, but I still appointed you. And if you look at all those people around them, none of them has the capacity to face William through his eyes and tell him, you know what, Mr. President, I disagree with you. All of them are weaklings.
Oh.
All of them are weaklings.
Moses Kuria.
All of them are weaklings. Moses Kuria has issues, many issues. You know them. You know, I don't know how this Mama Pima oil thing ended. We've never got a report. We don't know. We were just told, okay, Mama Pima oil is coming. Okay? So, either, even if you are, you know, you have a bit of substance, there are other issues that, you know, the president could have kept on reminding. So, we start off by saying that he decided to have the cabinet he had. So, the results were going to be obvious. If you have people who have experience, people who are actually useless, incompetent, not qualified, have many integrity issues, you know the outcome. In fact, I'm actually shocked that the cabinet was able to hold for 20 months. Because, and I think they were able to hold in because we have a very strong civil service that runs government. But otherwise, that cabinet left on his own, this country would have collapsed long ago. We are just lucky that we have a very strong civil service. Okay? But look at those characters in cabinet, or rather the cabinet which has just been fired.
It's
okay?
Everybody's talking about opulence, arrogance, everything.
The guys, you know, but you see, the arrogance, where are they getting? You know, why, you know, the question you must ask yourself, why are those people who are appointed all of a sudden, within 20 months, become arrogant? You know, even if you have children, Jed, and I do have many children, okay? A bad fruit does not fall far from the tree. So the tree is William Ruto. So the cabinet secretaries are picking behavior from the boss.
But the president was...
Because if the boss, put it this way, we have had presidents before. He is not the first president. We have had 4 before him. We have never seen a president who does not listen. Okay? I'm not saying that we've had weaklings before. We've had presidents before. But at least they had a listening ear. Then they had people surrounded themselves with people who are competent, people who could advise, you know, people who are grounded. But when you have such a cabinet like he had, I mean, I think Kenyans also are expecting too much from President William Ruto. You know, when you have a car that has old tires, and you know they don't even have air, you know, the pressure is gone. How can the vehicle move? It can't move. But so that vehicle is not going to move from day one.
You said something interesting. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But the president was telling us on X,
you know, if the tree has issues, the product, which is an apple or an orange, cannot be a good one.
The president was telling us he takes time to caution the likes of that nominated member of parliament, Karinyamu, who says, I've been calling them, I've been telling them the tone they are using. Is this just simple PR?
You know, you see, in fact, when a president goes to that level, calling a nominated member of parliament, you know, to tell him or her that your behavior is deviant, okay? I mean, it's childish. That's childish. You are not calling a child. You know, if you are calling a little child, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you can call them, you know, to give them a bit of lecture, and you know. But these are grown-ups. What business do you have calling a grown-up, telling them that your behavior is deviant? What's your business? Some of them are married with children. What's your business? You have no business.
So the right step
your job is to govern your job is to govern and not to call people to office and tell them that they have the misbehavior.
Tell me this.
How can you do that? Are you the husband?
Tell me this though.
Come on, be serious, Jed.
Are we looking at a step towards the right direction? Because first, the withdrawal of finance bill. Second, dissolving parliament. Austerity measures.
The
cabinet. Austerity measures says the office of the first lady, second lady, prime CS, spouse, all of them dissolved. 50% advisors out. You know, are we looking at the step towards the right direction for President William Ruto?
Jed, you know the weather is cold, but I don't know. You're just making me feel very hot.
Yeah.
Which austerity measures are you talking about? You see, the president. What are you talking about, Jed? You know, I've come to like you because you know you have potential.
Yes.
But sometimes you become
I have
very
to ask
unserious.
These questions.
You become very unserious.
I have to ask this question
because Jed.
Yes.
The president had an opportunity. I expected the president to say, you know what? We must live within our means. Okay? And these are the measures I'll taking. And these are the savings I'll create. Out of the measures that I'm taking, these are the savings. That I was looking for 347 billion shillings, you know, which is a gap to finance my budget. But I am going to, institute austerity measures that will wipe out that budget. Okay? That was immediate, because that you can do. Okay? He talked about the office of the spouses, which are unconstitutional. They are just, consuming billions of shillings. That's okay. In fact, they should not have been there in the first place. Okay? Then he talked about the confidential report. He should have read it more, because what is so confidential about that account? Why must you have so many millions of shillings at OP, millions of shillings? I can understand when NIS maybe, they can begin some latitude to have some money for intelligence gathering. Okay? They need to be resourced. But office of the president, what intelligence are you gathering? Why do you want to have an account that is not audited? Confidential report. What is so confidential in OP? That is number one. Number two, the president talked about suspending CAS. That's an office that we should not even be having that discussion in the first place. You are talking about a bloated, a civil service. You say they are consuming 47% of budget, 1.1 trillion or thereabout. Then you want to bring some other characters called CAS, who have no jobs.
But he has dropped
their jobs. He says he's suspended.
Yes.
Those characters can come 3-4 months from now, because he only told you suspending. Okay. Then he talked about merging 47 parastatal. It cannot happen immediately. Yes. He doesn't have the powers. Then he talked about Harambes. Okay, that was okay. But the issues like the operational account, the OPEX account. The OPEX account is where we need to interrogate. That's where there's wastage and corruption. If you had dealt with that one, we would have been okay. The other thing, Jed, why would the office of the president or the presidency consume 8% of budget, total budget? 8%.
Yeah.
What does it produce? What does the office of the president produce? That is money that should be directed to ministries and departments that can generate wealth, that can generate revenue, tourism, agriculture, But instead of having money directed to in terms of priority areas, he is just spending money as if he's spending personal money. He's forgetting that it's not personal money. These are public funds. Okay? So when you talk about austerity measures, they should start with you. But what is most important yet? Yes. I still believe that he would have, that 347 billion that he was looking for, by taking measures that are serious, he would have found that money. But when he comes to talk about things to do with corruption, he's not as aggressive. Why is he not aggressive on matters to do with corruption? His own administration has admitted that we lose 3 billion shillings on a daily basis. Just extrapolate, you get about 1.2 trillion every year. Do we even need to borrow money from these characters, these global imperialists called IMF and World Bank? Do we need them? We don't need them. If you can just deal with corruption. His own administration has admitted that we lose 3 billion. That's a lot of money. So if that money can be found, that his people are stealing, if you can find that money, Jed, we don't need to borrow. We can pay our loans very, very comfortably. We can even afford, I'm telling you, Jed, to increase salaries of civil servants.
Not even,
we can afford to
they'll put a measure of not hiring
we can even employ more people, and we can increase salaries if we deal without the elephant in the room called corruption. But I don't think my president is ready, is willing to deal with this issue called corruption.
You know, there's so much happening, unless you have something to add about the cabinet. But opposition leader Raila Odinga...
cabinet, you see, well, I mean, now that he has sent them home, I'm hoping, I don't know whether Kenyans are going to give him a chance, because see, what I'm hearing Kenyans saying is that the problem was not the cabinet, the problem was him. He's the problem. So I don't know whether his character will change by getting another set of human beings to work with him. Will his character change? Will his style change? Will his management style change? Or are we going to see the same William Ruto? We're most likely not going to see any change. It is just like asking him that, okay, today you're putting on that Chinese Kaunda suit. Now please start putting on Nigerian outfit.
Yeah. but I wanted to talk about dialogue, because we'll obviously wrap up with Ruto must go. But dialogue. Opposition leader Raila Odinga is calling for dialogue, says 150 people will be put into a sort of like a forum to have a conversation about the country from Monday to Friday, 50 of them of being youth. Are we looking at dialogue coming up? And should we even talk? Because it seems like Gen Z is very clear. We are not anti-government, we are pro-governance. That's what they're telling us. Are we looking at, should we be talking at all?
You see, I think there was time to talk. Time to talk ended. There is no more room for talking. We only have time for action. You see, if it's about reports, we have so many reports that have been generated before. So many reports. What we need to do is to act on the reports that have been churned out before. If it's a matter of extrajudicial killings, there are reports on these matters. If it's a matter on corruption, there are reports on these matters. All these challenges that we are facing, there are reports. If it's about electoral, reforms, there are reports. So, do you want us? You know, I am completely against having a meeting of a meeting. That's not how it works. You are supposed to have a meeting. The next meeting you're having is to report on progress and to confirm whether you're on schedule and to agree on what we are doing going forward. But if you want us to remain at point zero all the time, having a meeting, then having another meeting, a meeting of a meeting, is a waste of our time, and I completely agree with Kenyans. Time to talk is over, is out, over and out. Right now, the only time we have is time for action. In fact, by him suggesting that we should be talking, he's annoying people. People are getting even more annoyed. Talking about what? What are we talking about, Jed? What are we talking about? What do you want us to talk about? What do you want us to talk about?
That's the question.
What do you want us to talk about?
Will Ruto's tenure end on the August of 2027? Is this a likelihood? Or will it end sooner than we thought? Because everyone right now on social media, you post something, you're asked, why haven't you put the hashtag Ruto must go? You know, you post something, people say, which side are you on, with the people or with Ruto? Will his tenure end on August or before?
You see, President William Ruto had an opportunity. In fact, he's a lucky man that somehow he found himself in the office. Forget about whether it was legit or not. But he was in the office. So he had a very good opportunity to change the direction of this country, to take us forward, to push us forward from where his predecessors had left this country. But instead of pushing us forward, he started taking reverse gear on every front. On every front. Be it economic development, we are now taking a reverse gear. Be it corruption, in fact, if there was any gear after reverse, that's the direction you're going. Okay? Yeah. On governance, actually we are going back on all the gains that we have made from the time President Kibaki took over and the efforts that President Uhuru put in. We're actually taking a reverse gear. In fact, the only person who believes that Kenya is performing well is President Ruto. Because when you're performing well, when you're doing well, the report card can show. When you're doing well, you don't have to announce. The results can be seen. Did you ever see President Kibaki standing on a podium and telling Kenyans that, we are doing very well? People could feel it.
Yes.
People are doing business. There was food on the table. There were jobs being created. Corruption was being addressed. People could see things. But when you see somebody in leadership trying to justify his action, there's a problem. So your question was, is President Ruto likely to complete his term? I don't know how to answer you, but if your employer has already signed a letter of termination, which Kenyans have done in huge numbers, in millions, they have signed the letter terminating your services. How can you purport that is in the office? They have already sacked you. In fact, they are reminding you to go and collect your letter from the post boxes. You have just refused. They are saying, but you are done. We are done with you. We have sacked you. Please pick up your letter from the post box. Yeah. But you're insisting that, no, I'm still with you. I think for him, if I were him, because see, you only govern when you have people's confidence. People have lost confidence in him. How do you govern when people have no confidence in you? Number one. Number two, people have no trust. People don't trust you. So whatever you say, whatever you do, nobody believes in you. How will you govern when those two very important components have disappeared? Confidence, trust, legitimacy is finished. Nobody wants to listen to you. So it does not matter what effort you put in. It's a done deal. It's over and out. So if I were him, Jed,
before you tell me that, you also ask, maybe you answer at the same time, what must Ruto do now?
I was coming to that.
Yes.
What must Ruto do?
Now.
Number one, I think Emeritus Maraga, Chief Justice, former, had given an opinion. Article 2, I think it's 261, subsection 7, if I can remember. He can use that one to dissolve Parliament. Okay? Because Parliament, as currently is not properly constituted. So that's the next thing he should do, dissolve Parliament. He will not be breaking the law or the Constitution. He'll actually be doing the right thing. So dissolve this Parliament based on the opinion that President Uhuru was given by Justice Maraga on 20th September 2020. 21st September 2020. Use that one. Now that you send the cabinet home, okay? The other thing that he must do, all those people involved in extrajudicial killings by now should be in courts. They should have been arraigned in courts. You see, when somebody steals something small or somebody breaks somebody's leg, mwananchi, small little things, they move at supersonic speed. But now, when we've lost lives through extrajudicial means, they are taking their time. Why? By now, Because how many weeks have passed?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks have passed?
Yes.
There's nothing. Now I heard the DPP saying, oh, he's giving another 21 days. So in essence, by the time the 21 days lapse, because there's asked for the agencies involved to give him a report within 21 days, it will be 42 days. In fact, I don't know how they calculated. 21 days plus 21, the 42 thieves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it a coincidence or what?
Maybe.
21 days
Maybe it's a
passed.
coincidence.
He asked for another 21 days, the 42 thieves.
But then you've said well, and I want us to go back to where we started. Gen Z protests. Final words for Gen Z, because we're wrapping up. Of course, you'll be here on Thursday. He's coming back, by the way. Gen Z protests. General thoughts about the future, because it seems like it's leaderless. It's all about different momentums coming from different parts of the country. Governors wanasalimiwa. Even Raila alisalimiwa. His contract information is all over social media platforms. The future now with Gen Z, as you advise government, because Gen Z are watching every step that is being made by government. Final word to government, final word to Gen Zs.
Gen Zs, I'm so proud of you. I'm a father of both generations, the Gen Z and the millennials. Yeah, so I'm very, very proud of you. You've actually put this country on the right trajectory. We were actually going to sink. We would have sunk. By the end of this year, we would have had no country. Because if you look at what is happening, okay, I don't know whether we would have been able to survive for another 6 months. So for them to have had the courage, focus, stamina, the intelligence and intellect to come up and say that the country belongs to them, and it rightfully belongs to this generation. Okay? It is their country, it's their future. They have done the right thing to come and protect it from further collapse. Okay? As we move forward, I want them to even get better organized. And I've kept on saying that the problem that other people and other generations have had is the big L syndrome problem.
The big L.
The big L.
Yes.
They don't have that problem because they have recognized the fact that today Jed can provide leadership. Next minute, it can be somebody else. Yeah. The other minute, somebody else. But collectively, you can all provide leadership in areas where you have competencies. So there's nothing like they have leaders. They have actually many people exercising leadership. And that is why they are different. We have a person or persons who believe that they are leaders. They suffer from the big L syndrome. Okay? Bwana Mokuba syndrome. And that is why when you get into the office, you forget that you are a servant leader, that you are there to serve the people. You think that you are God sent. These young people have taken us in the right direction. Okay? For the government, it is too late. What you are putting on the table is very little, too late. My considered view is that they should start thinking or developing instruments of forming a transition government, that will take us through a period that we shall all agree as Kenyans, and then we have a snap election.
That's it.
That is
Nothing else will sell.
Nothing else will pass. Because from what I'm hearing, because I'm on the ground, I'm sure you're on the ground.
Yes.
People are saying the problem was not just cabinet, the problem was the captain. And there's no evidence that the captain will change.
Yeah.
There's no, even remotely, there's no evidence that he's about to change. So we need a complete reset as a country. We must go through that painful moment so that we are able to redeem ourselves.
What a place to wrap up. Conversation with Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert. By the way, I didn't introduce him. Ex-KICC CEO, former Nairobi town clerk, founder trustee, Kepsa, says it as he says it. But before we wrap up, I always give him a pleasure of saying one last thing, because Kisia always has something for us. He'll be coming back, by the way, on Thursdays and Fridays. We've been having Philip Kisia Unscripted, but because situation has necessitated our conversation today, we are at his place. Beautiful place, by the way, Kisia. Final word.
Thank you. You know, in fact, Jed, when I was thinking about your interview today, I remembered about the two set books I read almost 44 years ago, literature. One by Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, okay? And I think he starts off by saying, turning and turning in the widening guy. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. May anarchy? Complete. You just came from
I
school.
haven't read it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Things for a book you must read.
Yes.
The other one is Betrayal in the City by Francis Mbuga.
Yes.
And Mbuga talks about how Africans are governing post-colonial era.
Yes.
Is it better? According to Mbuga, I think it is worse. We actually have green grasses in the snake or something like that.
Yes.
Green grass in the snake, something like that.
Yes.
But he's basically talking of poor leadership, poor governance, corruption. That's what my good brother Francis Mbuga talked about. Then the other thing, as we close, Nani, so that I tell you that why I'm so excited, looking forward to a Rishi Sunak moment. Okay? There's somebody, I think, who lived in 1703 to 1758, Jonathan Edwards. And he said, there are people who are filled with knowledge, but empty of mercy and love. There are people who are filled with knowledge, but empty of mercy and love. I think this country finds themselves in that situation. So I'm hoping that my president will have the courage to do what Rishi Sunak did. He called for elections. He resigned. He has now resigned as a party leader. He apologized genuinely to the Britons, to his party, for the failures, either through omission or commission. But most important, Rishi took responsibility. I'm hoping that President William Ruto will stop passing the buck to anybody. He must take responsibility.
Well, thanks for tuning in to that conversation with Philip Kisia at his place, a conversation that we hope will shape the policy and political moves being made in this country. On Thursday, tuning once again, because Philip Kisia Unscripted will be back at this particular platform. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I hope you stay safe.
What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house. This is not Sogoi. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.